you because I would have hammered this out, but I've had 2 whirlwind weeks with one child getting engaged and another getting married, and so my head is still spinning. But I have some suggested language for the first 2 qualifications. But before I bring those forward, I'd like to hear from you as to why you chose to put in, what you did in the first item.
So I think the justification for when we were designing the professional school behavioral health position is that a bachelor's degree was appropriate because of the purpose of the work. I think they're going to be dealing with prevention, intervention, and intensive strategies. And then the second point to that is that we really wanted to widen the net to the 170 individuals that we may have to hire, but also in the job description it does purposely say master's degree preferred. So we would love to hire individuals with those master's degree as well, and compensate them with a master's degree. So those are 2 of the major reasons when we were designing that job.
Yeah, and in the job description, everything that's outlined, it can be done with a bachelor's.
Yeah.
May I follow up?
And this is also, the individuals in these positions would not be doing clinical work. So I think that's an important distinction.
They're not going to be
This is on the
assessing, diagnosing, or providing a treatment, so that's why the bachelor's degree is appropriate.
Well, my follow-up was going to be, did you speak to any professionals in the field? Because I understand that looking at other school districts' job descriptions for similar positions also all require the master's degree. And, and that's a big concern.
And we currently employ many individuals. We have our school psychologists, we have school counselors that do require that master's program. And this position is to help to fill that gap so that they're able to do more of the work that they've been specifically trained to do. This position is to, again, most social workers would have a bachelor's. This position would allow the hiring of a social worker to fill in those gaps where we currently do not hire individuals in our district in this space. And also to do that more prevention. When you think about the tiered support of services under the MTSS umbrella, this individual's on that front end. I think the school counselor that spoke earlier talked about how she's responsible for school-wide positive behavior support. This individual would be able to fill that gap so the school counselor could do the work that they need to do.
So, and just another follow-up. So if I agreed to that, then I have another qualification to add that might make me feel more comfortable. So how do you feel about adding a qualification? And I'll do it as a motion later, but the qualification would be a minimum of 2 years experience with children experiencing trauma, emotional and or behavioral issues. Shall I make that a motion?
Yeah, not yet, Dr. Robinson.
Okay, so you guys are just stepping all over my stuff. I'm just telling you. So this is what I've been talking about for 10 years, right? This is what I used to call MTSS, and now we have this name for it. This is a case, the job descriptions to me never really say what the person does. And I also shared the job description with a number of professionals, including my husband, who was no help at all because he's a psychiatrist, so he just wants to medicate people. But anyway, this is the triage position. This is not the person who is having the conversation with kids who have severe problems. This is the first line of contact. This is the person when the kid has a hot pass and they're just, out of control. This is who they go to. This is the person that checks their eyes to see if their child is living in a fragile situation is starting to decompensate, right? This is the first line for social emotional on campus, right? You don't need to have a master's degree for that. And amongst the people I talked to, besides my husband, was a executive director of the Westside Community Mental Health Center, who hires slews of mental health professionals and social workers for that agency. So now, I'll just tell you, I pushed to have 5 years of related industry experience. I pushed for that. I thought that was right. The people that I respect in the field who understand what I hope we will accomplish with this told me that that was not enough, right? So I know all you guys told me, okay. I backed down on that, right? But you do not require a master's. The other thing I want to add to this is the higher you go, no, I shouldn't say that out loud. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to say that. But so I will, and actually I like the point that you just made, Mrs. Brill. And I would ask you to amend your motion to remove or 5 years of related industry/discipline experience. But I don't want to professionalize this to the point that we are not using their skills. So, I'm going to compare this to when you go to your doctor's office, most likely you have a medical assistant that takes your vital signs. It is not the doctor, right? It's probably not an RN. So you do not need an MD or an RN to check your blood pressure. And so you don't need a master's degree to do the initial touch. And the person who is there for you and establishes those relationships. So I'm going to push hard against requiring a master's degree. The other thing I was told is we're not paying enough money. I mean, that's the other thing I was told. So that's it.
Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. So obviously we spoke to different people. And, and I'm okay if we leave it with the verbiage that's there. I was also told that we're not paying enough, just for the record. However, I would like to make a motion to shift down the qualifications and add a new number 3, so then the rest of them would move down, making a qualification of a minimum of 2 years experience with minimum of 2 years experience working with children experiencing trauma, emotional and or behavioral issues.
Mrs. Brill made the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Dr. Robinson. Discussion. Dr. Robinson.
So, I could really talk about this a long time, and I'm going to try to contain myself. But one of the things, and this is not directly related to the job description, but one of the things that's critically important, as somebody said, is that we hire the right people. We do not have the skill set to identify the right people in our organization. This is new for us. So I think it's critically important that we have outside behavioral health people who will assist us in evaluating applicants, right? And I also believe it's critically important that we have people who assist us in these evaluations who themselves has expertise in trauma, so that if the person is saying all the words that might seem right to the person with the EDD, they will know that this person is a fake, if you will, right? Additionally, I need to make sure that we have people who understand the intersectionality between racism and mental wellness or lack thereof in this country, because we are not going to end the disparities that we have. We are not going to truly address the needs of our children, and especially our most fragile children, if we don't understand who they are and the world they live in. And so all that's just to say is that, and I will, I'm not trying to make the board decide who those people are, but I just hope that the board will agree with me that we need to bring in that outside expertise to help us evaluate the candidates for these positions, and that we also focus on getting the right people and not just filling the position. And I'm going to quit.
Mrs. McQuinn.
Tagging on to Dr. Robinson's remarks about let's get input from other agencies, I'm just going to throw out there right now Families First, because they do have behavioral, I can't remember the exact name, but they have behavioral health specialists, I think. It's not specialist, I'm just wrong there. But they, for example, they have a full-time person in our Riviera Beach, the Prep Academy. So they have good experience on working with our kids in our schools. Remember, they don't adopt schools except for Riviera Beach Prep. But they follow the kids into the schools. And certainly the CEO, Julie Swindler, has incredible insight. So I think that they're a great organization to at least bring the benefit of what they do with our kids into this process.
So I think it's important for the board, when we first were debating this, and we met with the principals and we were talking as a team, one of the, as a former high school principal, one of the first charges I had with the team is, as we were thinking about additional positions, it was how do we take advantage of, as the counselor that spoke earlier, advantage of the people that we actually have. So a lot of the positions as we were designing this was eliminating superfluous responsibilities from the people we already have intact, which is why we have a testing coordinator as a position that's coming forward. And even the design of this program wasn't so much to be, I think many of you now understand it, this is the first line. And I think another key point is we have 180 plus different schools. I had to be very clear to the team, there will not be a one-size-fits-all approach to this work. Different communities, different cultures approach mental health differently in certain environments. We've now, June and her team have placed these different outside agencies in these schools, and people are flocking to them. In other communities, you better not talk to these people that I don't know. And so there's a different sort of, we have to be really honest around this is new territory for us. So, and I also want to say for the record, again, we have to be careful about making it too narrow, because then we'll be having a question later as to why do certain schools have them and others don't. And again, that's part of our equity agenda. Now, what I want to say again to the board is, as we go through this journey, we're going to set up a cadence of accountability, which we will review this, we will make adjustments. We are actually leading the way for the entire state in this type of work. And so I want to be clear that while this is happening, we will have to create a robust accountability metrics to make sure that these people are doing the right things. But I also want the board to understand, if people aren't, we have to get out of our own way we're not always going to make the best hire. That's anti-human nature. We have to put ourselves in a position to be able to undo some of the choices that we make. And so I just have to say that to you, when you talk about bringing on close to 200 to 300 people over the next 2 years, we're not going to get it perfect, but we've told the taxpayers this is what we wanted to do. They responded overwhelmingly favorable to allow us to do it. And so this discussion, I know some people cringe sometimes when we have these debates, but these are the type of debates we have to do the real work, and this is definitely, we're leading the charge. So I just wanted to say from the record that I appreciate this, but I want us to be clear. This is not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach to this work.
Mr. Brill, first, I'd just like to make, Superintendent, so I agree with whichever one of them said. I think it was Dr. Robinson. No disrespect intended for the administrators we have in the district, but we need outside assistance to make sure we pick the right people. So, if you would just agree that, that's something that the administration is going to look at to make sure that, I understand that this is new to us, it's new to the entire state, but we want to get it right, and maybe we don't have the right people in-house to make the decision who the right people are. So once we get these performance responsibilities settled by the board, if you could just make sure that we have some people that really know, like Dr. Robinson said, whether they're real or fake before we hire them. And
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you 100%. As a matter of fact, every board member at this table has, in our private conversations, have said that to me. I think we need to look at the good work we've done on the security side of this, of bringing on a team of people who know that work. And even when we selected our chief of police, we were only part of the team that selected the chief of police. We reached out to different municipalities, Judge March. We had a lot of people at that table. This team has already decided that's going to be the work going forward. even more so, several board members convinced, even Dr. LaCava, who can be a little difficult at times, that we will have to bring a pool of people together to begin to screen and have that conversation. So I absolutely agree with you on that, and we're prepared to do that work. We absolutely are, sir.
Thank you. Mrs. Brill?
Thank you. So you all stole my thunder because I was going to suggest that we do have a team for the interviews with pulling in from some of those community partners that we've been working with, as well as our psychologists. So now, since you stole my thunder, I'm going to remind you that I put a motion on the floor, though, to add some language to the job description that was seconded. So we need to vote on that motion.
All right. Do you clear what the addition was, Dr. LaCava?
Do you want me to repeat
The
it?
clerk has asked that you read it
Okay.
one more time.
Okay, so it would be making this number 3, minimum of 2 years experience working with children experiencing trauma, emotional and or behavioral issues, period.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That was the amendment. So now we need to vote on the original motion, which was to approve the professional school behavioral health position as amended. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay.
Hey.
P3, Mr. Superintendent.
I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as amended. Oh, I'm sorry.
It is as amended because something came in late this afternoon.
Okay, all right.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Brill. Let me read. The good cause exists to add this item to allow employees to begin in their new positions as soon as possible. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Madam Clerk, are we finished? We'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion made by everyone, seconded by everyone. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.